Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing your insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide practical perspectives on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. And before we dive in, I'm thrilled to announce that my latest book, Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with actionable advice for growing a successful law firm. Be sure to grab your copy today. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and resources. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we love your reviews. They help us reach more attorneys like you who are striving to build the practice of their dreams. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Everyone, it's Ruby, your host of Power Up Your Practice, the law practice management podcast. And I'm excited to have my friend. He is an attorney, an award-winning blogger and podcaster at the Tech Savvy Lawyer, and he has his own law firm too. He wears a lot of hats. We've met through, I think, ABA law practice division, probably, or just having a lot of friends in common potentially. And then I said, because he was wearing his yellow hat, his signature yellow hat, and I saw him at a conference in Utah last year, and I said, "Hey, I think I know you." And then you recorded me on your podcast, and so it's been long overdue to have you. So anyway, welcome to the show, Michael. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background for your listeners so that they understand the evolution of the law practice and then ultimately the podcast. With the college, got an undergrad and master's degree in civil engineering, environmental engineering. So why is that important? It's important because it gave me a nice, strong science background. On top of that, I knew how to use computers. That helped me a lot when I went to law school because my penmanship was horrible and my hands were always cramped and I just couldn't write that much that long. So at the time, there's a program that came out called Examinator. I don't know if you remember that, if that was before or after your time. It's a program that you could put into your laptop. It was a disk. It would lock out your laptop to everything except for the word processing program that was contained on that disk. So you could write out your essays and teachers didn't have to worry about you having, your outlines or, pre-prepared text that you could copy and paste over. You could type straight into a simple word processing program and then it would save. And then ultimately the professor would get, your final essay for that class. And that helped me a lot. So went to law school, graduated, got certificates of concentration in both administrative law and environmental law. And yes, I wanted to be an environmental lawyer. Unfortunately, 9/11 had just happened. And I graduated that spring after. Finding a job was very difficult. But the last contract job I had was at the U.S. Navy Marine Corps Court of Criminal Appeals, where I was helping the Article 1 judges there. I draft decisions, I do legal research, I'd write memos, etc. My then girlfriend, now wife, encouraged me to start my practice. And I've now been practicing for nearly 20 years at the law office of Michael D.J. Eisenberg. Now, how does that science background help me? It helped me because I knew how to be efficient using computers. I knew what programs I needed. I knew how to get the right hardware. I knew how to get the right printer. I knew the correct internet access that I needed. It made my life a lot easier so I could be efficient and be, on my own without the needed help of, secretaries, law clerks, etc. So I was my own IT person. And now for nearly 20 years, I've been representing veterans before the VA. I help them get the proper service connection, proper effective date, and proper rating. My science background comes in handy because there's a lot of medical issues going on. And no, I didn't study medical issues, but I did study science. And you sort of translate that over, and I understand how the ratings work because it can get a little bit complicated. I understand the medical issues that needed to be addressed and the symptoms for each medical issue. And I could read the regulations as being a lawyer. I could understand it not only as a lawyer, but as a science person with background. And everything just sort of clicked. I also do what's called military medical boards. where a military member may be unfit for duty due to one or more service-connected conditions, and they may be in the process of being discharged. And of course, I also do what's called military records corrections issues, where there may be an error or mistake in a military member's or veteran's military file. For instance, anything from just having the wrong award in his or her record, or if they need an upgrade because of a pattern of misconduct, say because they were acting out due to the trauma they seen in war.
Wow.
So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I have a follow-up. What do you mean by ratings?
So if you're a veteran and you have a medical condition that's service connected, in other words, that you currently have a current medical condition, that there's a stressor event that caused the current medical condition, and that the doctor provides a nexus, then ideally you're going to be getting benefits from the VA. Now, each medical condition has a rating under the VASRD, the VA Schedule Rating Disability. And so, for instance, I'm going to make this up. Let's say I'm missing an arm, God forbid. Okay. And let's say at most you can get for a missing arm is 50%. And if like the arm was still attached but not useful, it may be 40%. If your arm is still attached but maybe you could use it minimally, it's 20%. Those are the ratings you can get for the various medical conditions. Now, to make things really complicated, because that's what the government does, if you had two conditions that are 50% each, you don't get 100%. You don't get to stack the ratings. Imagine your body as a pie. So draw a big circle.
Okay.
And imagine that you have one disability that's 50%. You slice that circle in half, shade off that half, you have 50% left. Now, as I mentioned, if you have another condition that's 50%, you don't get to shade off that other half. You get to shade off half of the remainder. So you get 75%. And then, of course, depending, forgive me, I always forget if it's 74 that you round down, and 75 and higher you round up, or it's 4, 5, 6. And that's how you either get 70 or 80. And so good.
No, well, it sounds very technical. And I think one interesting thing, I remember you telling me some stories when we were in Utah, and I was like, they're very fascinating about your area is federal and administrative.
Yes.
And so I think that lends itself to being allowing you to have more of like a mobile or virtual-esque type of a practice. Is that sort of the style of firm you have?
Absolutely. So I'm based in Washington, D.C. My clients are not only across the country, they're across the world. I've had clients in Germany, Israel. I've had calls from France. I've had clients in England, South Korea, Japan, Australia, just to name a few. And given the technology that we have, it's very easy to do. When I first started the practice, I had VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. Yeah. And now, of course, a lot of the VoIP services offer mobile device access. So I have the VoIP, I have the VoIP that I use on my cell phone. So if I'm in California and I'm talking to a client in Utah, the client only gets my firm number that pops up. And it doesn't matter where I am, where I call. And I receive calls just the same, just as I receive emails and send emails just the same. And I'm always practicing federal law. So it doesn't matter where I'm at.
We have the VoIP app on our phones, and it's great because I think a lot of people used to have like 2 phones or something like that. Right. You don't need to. Yeah.
And also I've been running a virtual law office since I started. My office is based in Washington, D.C. at Metro Center. And instead of spending, say, $2,000 a month for, 350 square feet of an office space, I spend $75 or $100, I forget what it is now, where that is where my mail is received. I have the option to, rent out conference rooms and meeting rooms. And if that's the case, I just bring my laptop with me, just as I would bring my laptop to California or anywhere else I travel.
And this whole time, like your clients never cared to see you in person, or has there ever been someone's like, I have to see you in person?
90 to 95% of my clients are outside the DC metro area. And I've been doing this by phone since the start. Now, mind you, I used to meet clients in person based on old tradition thinking in my brain that you needed to. And that was not for the VA clients that I represented, but for other types of clients. And even then, most of the clients or the potential clients, I always met by phone. And the running joke would be, I wouldn't actually see, the client and I would be, I wouldn't actually see each other until we had a hearing. Because back then, either I would travel to a regional office or they would travel here to Washington, D.C. to be heard in front of a judge.
Oh.
And then we meet for the first time. Now, of course, the VA and the Board of Veterans Appeals in particular prefer to do their conferences by virtual hearings. So I'm sitting here at my desk.
Yeah.
They're sitting at home, and the judge is either, downtown DC or sitting at their home office.
What do they use, WebEx or?
They use something
They have their own
specifically. Yeah, the government has its own virtual hearing system.
Oh, okay. So then, like, if the client's fine with not seeing you in person and you don't have to go to court in person, then really there's nothing that necessitates, if you can file digitally,
right?
There's really nothing that necessitates in-person component.
Not really. I mean,
yeah,
we talk on the phone, and when they have questions or if I have a question, we contact each other. I use email usually to sort of effectuate those communications. In other words, if it's just simply something I need to tell them just real quick, I'll shoot them an email. Or if they need to tell me something, they'll shoot me an email. We'll send documents back and forth by email. And if we need to talk, I will usually, they'll contact me, say, hey, Mr. Eisenberg, can we talk? I'll send them either a link that they can use to schedule. I use on Calendly. So this way I can kind of keep control of when I am talking to people and not talking to people. A virtual receptionist helps a lot. One, because they sort of screen the calls, because I've been getting too much spam calls, and that's just interrupting the workflow. And then on top of that, respectfully, when a client calls me and wants to talk right now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm ready to talk or can talk. And I also need to have an idea of what they want to talk about. So I'm not kind of, flipping through files on my computer, figuring out, okay, this is what we're talking about. Because your brain is usually engaged in something fairly in depth. I've turned off the ringer to my VoIP because I just can't handle it. It's just too much.
Well, before we start talking more about the podcast, because I'm curious about that too. And I forgot to tell people that you helped save the day when I was at ABA Tech Show. My co-panelist was unable to attend due to health reasons, and completely understandable. But I saw you and I was like, hey, do you want to come tag along on this panel with me? And called it like the mobile lawyer. And we had a great time, just talking about all the gadgets and gizmos. And one of the things that, like, both admin law, both federal law, but for the only until probably right before the pandemic did a lot of things change in immigration. We didn't have online filing for immigration court until just a few years ago.
Wow.
We didn't have WebEx readily available, mostly just for detained. They didn't allow copies of signatures. They required originals. So a lot of those those requirements necessitated us to be more in person. But as soon as those things stopped being required, we were able to use the technology that kept improving to change our operations. And even when I ran the law firm from Dubai, now that's 14, 13 years ago, whatever, I had to try to make workarounds or drop certain types of cases because I couldn't, to handle that halfway around the world. But as one attorney for the law firm, but it's just so exciting, like what's possible. And I think that's interesting too, how you entered around that 2001 time. I entered around 2008, 9, with having as a lawyer and then as my own law firm. And then I feel excited for people entering the practice now with AI and just with all the technology, because I feel like there's just been some nice markers where, you know, you can play in the big with against the big leagues because there's just so much more resources or technology available. And just being able to not have to have an office to run a law firm saves you so much money. So it allows you to reduce your overhead.
And the nice thing about being a solo is I get to be much more nimble than the larger law firms. I don't have to go through so many steps to,
Mhm.
bring on a client, to buy new technology or use new technology. And you mentioned AI and how you're excited about the newer generation of lawyers coming in. Yes, I'm excited about the use of AI. I am a little bit concerned about new
Mhm.
lawyers using AI because as we're seeing people who should know better,
Mhm.
experienced lawyers are using AI and they're using it incorrectly. I don't want, new lawyers becoming lazy thinking they can just rely on AI to do everything because they can't. And the one thing that they're not doing, and this is something I would tell when I used to teach, when I, with all my law clerks and with everyone else, including myself, is to
Uh-huh.
review. And if you're not reviewing that document, and in particular, if you're using something off of AI and not checking those citations and not confirming that the facts are correct as spouted by your AI generator, you're doing yourself not only a disservice, but setting yourself up for a bar complaint.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's a lot of AI etiquette and just awareness and education. But I guess what I meant more like is that like there's an opportunity to enter the space and reduce a lot of costs by leveraging
Oh,
it and time saving and not reinventing the wheel type of thing. But yeah,
agreed.
there's a lot of
Oh, for that aspect,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so then you have this award-winning podcast, The Tech Savvy Lawyer. So how did that come about? Tell us more about that.
Well, what they say, behind every successful man is a very strong woman. My wife, who I've known for 20 years and been married to 18 as of this August,
Hmm.
had been on my case barely from the beginning to get a hobby. And so, when you're starting a law firm, you don't have a lot of
Hmm.
time for hobbies, let alone time for much else. And about 6 years ago, in 2019, started get the idea of this tech savvy blog. My wife was always complaining. She's like, you spend hours on the phone helping other attorneys with their computer issues. You need to figure out a way how to get paid for this.
Hmm.
And so I had an idea about the blog. The tech show was happening in 2019. And I went to the tech show sort of as a way to experience to get some ideas about, could I do a blog on this? And I met with a bunch of people, I believe, including Brett Burney, um, and also Judge, who's retired now, Judge Herbert Dixon from the Superior Court for the District of Columbia. You may
Hmm.
remember he's been a big speaker there for many years, and actually, I happened to have the opportunity to see him at the DC bar conference about a month ago, and I talked with him, and he was like, I like your idea. It could really fit, doing the blog
Hmm.
for lawyers about how to use technology and improve their services and recapture time for themselves. And I went with that. I started working on it. And then I realized, holy cow, you know, b- podcasting seems to have a better reach.
Hmm.
So the blog serves as a landing point, but also, I blog about. I have an editorial every week about what's going on with in legal tech world, and there's been a lot on AI and misuse of AI. And then I started the podcast, I think 4.5, 5 years ago. We're on season 5, so it was about 5 years ago. And Judge Dixon was my first guest. And he was
Oh.
great. He was really nice about it. And, we had a great time. And, it's been growing ever since. We're on episode 111.
Oh,
112 will be released next Tuesday. Just absolutely excited. I've had you on. I've had others like Brett Burney, Carolyn Elephant, Tom Martin, just to name a few. And I've had Judge Schlegel. He was on recently. That episode will be released soon. It's a lot of fun for me to talk about tech and how, other people are using it. We share ideas back and forth. I've been getting great listener feedback and, just want to grow the podcast. So to reach more listeners, but also they're just not for lawyers. You can get tips and tricks about using your technology, regardless of what you do. This just happens to be a little bit more lawyer focused.
Yeah, that's sort of like the law practice management. Like it could be used for probably almost any professional service industry or small business. But yeah, that's sort of interesting because you and I both have a podcast that doesn't directly necessarily relate to our practice of law, but we find some synergies there where it just helps us have another outlet for our interests. So that's awesome.
But with the podcasts and the blog, I'm finding that I very much enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to know that my contributions aren't just something that's like out there. It's like, oh, there's Michael Eisenberg, the only listener he has is Michael Eisenberg, not, and, I got I'm in the top 10% of downloaded podcasts. Wow. And it's also led me to meet a lot of interesting people and then also present some great opportunities. And, this past, was it April or March, or it was the ABA Tech Show?
Was that April? I don't know.
Yeah, both of us are like, we've been traveling everywhere and doing work. And, it's like today's Thursday.
It was April. I think it was April because I was in El Paso at the end of March. I don't know. It was I'm trying to remember my travel schedule.
And I've been attending regularly since 2019, with the exception of when we were down for COVID. Mm-hmm. And, wow, what an opportunity to present at the tech show. Not twice, but thrice, because I pitched it with you, which was fantastic and a lot of fun. And there's a lot of great people there who clearly want to learn more and share more. And that's the fun part for me. So my wife's like, you found a hobby, great, but it's occupying a lot of your time too. You got the blog and podcast and everything else going on in life. But it's been a lot of fun, and it will continue to be, I hope.
No, that's awesome. No, I started in December 23 or 20. I don't know. It's about a year and a half old now. So I think it was December 23. We're trying to get it out every week. But I think one of the things I enjoy the most, and it's so funny because one of the last guests asked me this while we were not recording. And he started asking me questions. I was like, okay, that's fine. And it was like, why are you doing this? In a nice way. And I was like, no, it was, and I was like, well, I have fun. And I think like people learn something and I learned something. Like if anything, I feel like it gives me an excuse to have coffee one-on-one without the coffee necessarily, maybe, but like, and I'm learning. And the one of the things I missed the most when I was in Dubai was like the human interaction, because I think there was this idea before the pandemic that if you're going to hang out with somebody, it had to be in person. Right. But then there used to be more of like, oh, we can have a Zoom party or a Zoom hangout, or we can talk, and so then when that became more common, it's like, oh, yeah, let's just have like a virtual coffee date, I guess, hangout or some sort. And so this really fulfills me with this one-on-one conversation or small group or just thinking and being purposeful. And I really learn a lot. And so anyway, I enjoy doing it as well. Are you finding yourself overwhelmed with handling phone calls and spending endless hours on consultations that just don't qualify? Well, let me introduce you to Staffy Live, your ultimate solution for 24/7 live receptionist and intake services tailored specifically for law firms. Now picture this: empathetic, truly bilingual specialists who understand the intricacies of client care and are experts at asking all the right questions to qualifying callers efficiently. Now that with Staffy Live, you'll feel like you have a trusted partner at your side, ensuring only qualified consultations make it on your calendar and providing valuable follow-ups when needed. As someone who's been using Staffy Live for my own law firm, I couldn't be happier. And I guess what Staffy Live is now offering, a generous 15-day free trial with no strings attached. You can head over to staffy.cc. That's stafi.cc and click Get Started. And don't forget to use the code RUBY, RUBY. Your future self will thank you.
Can I interject here real quick?
Yes. Yes.
So literally 2 hours or an hour ago, I just finished a recording with Seth Price of Price Brenowitz and also Blue Shark Media.
Okay.
And we were talking about how you try to make like a lunch appointment with someone, but those always fall through. You're more likely to keep a coffee appointment, but still, those aren't always easy to do. But you ask someone to be on a podcast or vis-a-vis, and you make that time works. It's in your calendar. You've got really no excuse not to be there unless there's an emergency, because you don't have to go far. And that's how people are sort of staying in touch.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I, we know each other, we're friends, we're colleagues, and we just don't always have time to kind of like just, chat or talk, because, you're a couple states away, I'm here in DC, but yet when we find time, and we've struggled to find time to make this recording, and, I say that not complaining, but we're all busy. But the fact is that we got to have this opportunity to sit down and talk and share and catch up, because that's what we did for about 15 minutes before we started recording, which was great. And I wish we could do it more, but with everyone's schedule. But when you say, "Hey, can you be on my podcast or vis-a-vis," you set it in stone, and you show up and you have a great time.
And there's also something about the conversation too, that like, I feel like sometimes you can go deeper when it's like purposely scheduled, and like there might be like there's more of like a theme or I don't know. I just like, one thing, I'm listening to this book called Super Communicators, because
Okay.
Charity recommended it when we were doing some ABA Tech Show planning, and I was like, I've been like binge listening to it, and it's great. I mean, one of the points is like there should be a purpose to the communication, and then also like when you share emotions, like you bond and people connect. And anyway, there's a lot to it, but it's
Do you remember
great.
the days?
Yeah.
Do you remember the days when you just got on the phone with your friend or whatever, just chit chat?
Yeah, that's
We
sort
don't
of
do
like,
that anymore.
no, my brother still calls me, and I'm like, I love that, like a nostalgic thing. I'm like, yeah, David, no, I don't have time to talk. I feel bad, but I'm like, I feel like that's sweet. That's sweet that we still, but my kids, like 12 and 14, a phone is not to talk on. Like, it's to be on an app, a Duolingo, play video games, text, but that's it. It's so funny.
But take that phone function away from them. Just give them, was it I remember the iPad without, or not the iPad, but the iTunes. What was the pod? It was basically an iPhone without the phone. This is horrible. I should know this. So yeah, take away the phone from the kids, and I'm sure they'll say something.
I know, it's good. They're going to go to camp soon and be aware, no devices, and they'll remember how to they'll be a kid again. Yeah.
Are they being punished?
I'm sending them out into the hot Texas sun in the middle of the summer without devices. You think it would be punishment, but there's a lot of water and activities, and yeah, it'll be
cool.
fun.
No, I think that's great. And we all probably need it, but when was the last time you saw a lawyer without their smart device?
Well, I know I couldn't use mine very much when I was on a cruise because the internet was really bad, but
Sorry.
But other than that, you're probably right. It's almost like permanently attached to their hand. Yeah, pretty much. But I want to know about that award. So tell me a little bit how you got this award.
So the American Technology Legal Association has a variety of categories. It's an association where they recognize lawyers for using technology, as I kind of mentioned, to make law more successful. And there's a variety. It typically spearheads the Clio conference. And weren't you there? Weren't you at the award ceremony last year, or the year before?
I think so. I'm getting my years mixed up, but the one before the ClioCon, yeah. 2024, yeah, in Austin. Mm-hmm.
Yes, were you there? Yeah, in 2022, I was awarded for individual for the podcast and blog, and the three main founders of the award, and forgive me, I'm forgetting names, Tom Martin,
Cat Moon.
but yeah, they have 10 categories now, including access to justice, artificial intelligence. That's what I won.
Mm-hmm.
Journalism, law firm innovation, startup excellence, and lifetime achievement. And I think that recognition is very important. It's important that our peers who are making those strides are recognized, not only to give them the adulation that they deserve, but also so that the general public, including the average attorney, knows what's out there. If that makes any sense. And
of course.
I'm a lowly solo attorney, and yet I'm able to do all this tech stuff to help my practice. And if I can share with others to help them improve their practice, all the better. And I was really appreciative of winning the award a couple years ago, and I hope to continue to strive and to move further above and beyond what I'm doing, which is why I created Tech Savvy Saturdays. And the third Saturday of every month, I have a free webinar where I talk about one particular tech topic. Sometimes I'll have a guest come in and talk about that particular tech topic or product or service, and then leave it open for questions. And then the last half of the program is sort of a tech triage moment where people come with their tech issues, and we try to collectively answer their questions for them and solve their problems. And as I mentioned, it's free. It's every third Saturday of every month. The first was on using Text Expander, using a snippets. And the second was, the hidden tricks and tips of using Microsoft Word. It's amazing how many people don't know some of the automated functions that are in Word that makes brief writing so much easier.
That would save so much time if people knew all that. No, that's a great resource. Your blog, the podcast, the different mediums that you can retain that and learn that information. It is a great service. So between running the law firm and the podcast blog, is it like 50-50 or like running the law firm?
The law firm takes more time. I mean, in all honesty, I'm looking to balance the two, evenly, because I think that the practice adds some, a touch of practical use, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And of course, the blog and the podcast, one is a way for me to relax, but also to learn more myself, because not only do I learn from the guests and through the research that I do, I also learn by presenting stuff I know. Because it reinforces in my head the stuff I know, but also, trust me, there are times where I'm like, hey, I could improve upon this.
They say it improves your knowledge, and you have to really know the content to be able to teach it. And then that's what I love. Like, I mean, I'm getting information from the one-on-ones and in the podcast, being a guest and having guests. And then I'm teaching as an adjunct, and then I'm writing, and then I'm going to a lot of conferences. So like, it's just this beautiful like ecosystem where I'm constantly learning and sharing information. So I get really excited about just like living this like life I created, I guess you could say. Like, it's so awesome, because really it's with a lot of technology. You don't have to have a whole gigantic team or anything to do this.
Because right now it's just you and your producer.
And you as a mentor, and Matthew Curvis always giving me advice on like how to, build out my little area, or what microphone to buy, or what headset or something like that. And so I appreciate that.
So actually you should share with the audience that not only do you have opportunities to learn and share more when you're on the podcast, but just the normal dialogue that you're having with your colleagues wherever. For instance, learning about a great mic that I know you got. Before the ABA Tech Show, there was another conference that I was at the same facility called Podcast Movement, where I was just trying to up my podcast game. And I happened to win what you can see here is the the MV7. And I was so excited about it. I had it in my hand and I showed it to Ruby, and I think you went ahead and got it.
I think I was like right then, or you wouldn't let me leave the conference without buying it. So no, I'm just kidding.
No, 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 no. Don't blame that on me.
No, I'm happy I got it.
that is one thing I will say about the blog and the podcast. My blog and podcast is that I'm told I cost people money. Okay, I'm not making you
Okay.
spend anything,
So
but when
should we blame your wife? She's the one who made you
yes,
the hobby.
yeah,
And then
go
she
ahead and
blames
send your bill to Mindy. No, please don't. But I'm sure she'd be thrilled.
Look what this hobby is doing. It's making us buy new gadgets and gizmos. No, I'm really happy.
Trust me, I kind of get the side eye of, wait, do you really need that? I'm like, yes, dear, because I'm trying to improve the firm or the blog or the podcast.
Well, and then I was on, it was either with you or Greg Siskin, because you helped me on one of the ones and Greg helped me on the other. I ended up buying this Anchor super duper charger because I was like, oh, this looks so cool. It can charge my laptop in case it smiles at me. I love it. I was telling my friend, I was like,
I have the same thing, and I brought it to the conference, and I probably showed it to you because I had just gotten it. So I wanted to improve my portable
mobile
batteries.
lawyer game. Yeah,
exactly. Which is probably an important thing that I think everyone needs to remember is that they need to make sure that they're either well charged for their devices, have appropriate cords for charging their devices, and also having backup batteries, which comes in handy. But one thing that I think people forget about when they're charging their devices, especially on the road, is to make sure you have a surge protector. Because like some of the wires and dongles, they have a warranty, which great, but that doesn't help you if you're on the road and your computer fries because of the surge. Because the judge isn't going to care that you had a surge and didn't file something on time, even because you're mobile. Finding cheap, expensive, surge protectors. I have like a one plug surge protector that I carry in my main backpack or laptop valise, and then I have a cheap strip that I throw into the suitcase that I pop out whatever hotel I'm at or whatever conference. Well, won't be a conference, but whatever hotel I'm at when I'm traveling. Because you just want to plug everything in and make sure everything's secure. Because one good power surge and you're screwed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, I think that's a good reminder for everybody. Go check out your blog, the Tech Savvy Lawyer dot page to see all the information you've been sharing and all the different tech suggestions. So we're getting close to the end, and I get to ask you a couple of rapid questions.
Okay.
All right. So, what's your favorite board game?
I know I mastered Trivial Pursuit. Because toward the end of my grandmother's life, she would constantly just beat everybody because she was incredibly well read. The last two games I played, I won and I beat her. And the best part was I think the last game I played with her, I was dead last out of the four. And somehow I used all 7 letters at the end perpendicular to the word on a triple word score and leaped to first place.
Wow.
And for her to go, how did he do that?
Wait, are you talking about Scrabble or Trivial Pursuit?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I meant Scrabble. So I guess there's 2 games. One, Trivial Pursuit, which I got really good at, especially with the 80s editions that nobody will play me anymore. And then on Scrabble, I'm sorry, it was the game where I did that. And, that was joyful. And sadly, that was the last game we played. But, I have fond memories, but the wife won't play with me on either game.
Well, so I think my grandma got me into Scrabble too. And I was saying on a recent episode that we only as a family played it every 5 years, and all the dictionaries we have are so dusty. Like I'm sneezing like a dust mites up a storm or whatever. And so I'm like, I need to make a little group of people I can play Scrabble with, because it would be great to have that story where I find some awesome word, especially with an X or a Y, and win all these points. Okay. What would you consider your superpower?
My empathy.
Aw, that's good. It's really been listening a lot about how important it is for connection, and actually it's a key component to rainmaking. as well.
When you're representing veterans who have put so much into
Mm.
service of this country, and then for the country not to quite be up to step with what their needs are, you've got to respect that, and you've got to be empathetic, because these are people who are not looking to get rich. They're looking for the government to honor the contract that they made with them. You've got to understand that the Veterans Benefits Appeals process takes more than 4 to 15 years to go through, but it's the facts on the ground of what's happening. And I was lucky enough to be able to help a veteran who ended up having to wait 15 years for the VA to tell him, no, we're denying your benefits. So the case actually helped make precedent in the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. A judge had said that FERCO set, precedent set a standard. So to hear all that and be able to help the veteran.
Well, thank you for your service. I do seem so many similarities between your field and mine with the empathy, and because we're working with a lot of traumatized clients who fled for their lives, and just listening and connecting and giving them the benefit of the doubt and believing and wanting to help them find the best solution for their lives and their children's lives. It sounds like it's very similar in that respect. Well, what is a habit that you think contributes to your success?
Probably being type A. I'm not as type A as I used to be. I just got a little too tired to be constantly the high-strung type A that I was. But, just being, anal retentive about a lot of things helps to make sure that things are, what they need to be, and make sure that they're as accurate as they can be. Doesn't mean that mistakes don't happen. If you don't pay attention to the detail, unfortunately, that's when mistakes happen.
Yeah, that's true. And we have to do it as lawyers. What's a favorite book or podcast? Or like, what's the one that you would suggest, a book or podcast?
Well, there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of books out there. One of the ones that I enjoyed that really helped me before COVID hit, and with all due respect to everyone, Lord knows that when COVID hit, I think it kind of monkeyed up everything for everybody. But I read a book called Atomic Habits. And this was when I was going really full steam into everything that I was doing. Atomic Habits helped me help better prioritize what needs to be done now versus what can be done later. I would recommend that book.
You were at CleoCon in Austin, right?
2 years ago.
James Clear was one of the keynotes.
Oh, okay.
This last fall. Yeah.
No, I wasn't able to attend this last fall. Because remember, I attended Lex Summit.
Yeah.
And then the year before, I attended Clio. I went both on press passes for the Tech Savvy Lawyer. You go to something like that. And, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Both Clio and Lex Summit put on great conferences.
Right. And they have a lot of good keynotes and some thought-provoking ideas. Well, I had read most of the Atomic Habits. And then when I heard James Clear for the keynote, it was like a really great summary, highlighting the key points. It's just a series of habits that fill in the days that make things happen or not happen. Even the whole batching habits, like having one of the ones I like is putting my gym clothes, like workout clothes up ready so that when I wake up and I'm all like, I need coffee. Like I just find my clothes it's like a robot. Just go put the clothes on. Now I need coffee and walk. Well, it's been great, Michael. I'm so glad we could get on each other's calendars and connect.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. How can people find you and stay connected with you and learn more about you?
2 best ways: if you're a veteran or military member and need some help, please check out my website at www.eisenberg-lawoffice.com. And of course, if you're a lawyer or interested in tech in general, please check out my blog and podcast, the techsavvylawyer.page. And if you've got questions, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help if I can.
Awesome. You're out and about. You're at these tech conferences. You're involved with ABA Law Practice Division. And so if you see this guy with the yellow hat that says Tech Savvy Lawyer like this, then it's probably Michael. And you should go up and say hi.
Please do. I always love meeting new people. I always love, getting asked good questions or even questions that may sound a little silly, maybe sounding silly, but they may be important nevertheless. So don't be afraid to ask. And by the way, when I went to the ABA spring conference, I was wearing my hat, and security guard, the TSA security guard goes, "Oh, so you're the tech savvy lawyer?" Which was nice. I said, I try to be on a good day.
Pro tip: he likes coffee, so you can go to his website and buy him a coffee.
Oh, yeah, buy me a coffee if you'd like to help make a donation to the blog and the podcast to sort of help cover costs and defray other expenses. It would be appreciated. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you mentioning that, Ruby.
Yeah, no, I remember buying you coffee, and you really do like coffee. Like, you go to cool coffee shops when you go to Newtown. So if you see him at a coffee shop, that's probably a cool one. So,
and if you see me wearing the hat,
go talk to you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks everybody for listening. It was great, this discussion, and feel free to stay in touch. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode. We've got lots of great content, and in between episodes, you can follow us on the Power Up Your Practice Facebook page, and we'll have more information coming out in the coming weeks. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management Podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, tell someone else about us, and we'd love to get this podcast shared with others to reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive content, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. And exciting news, our book, The Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with strategies, 25 chapters, to help you elevate your practice and achieve your goals. So join us next week as we dive into more advice and insight on law practice management. We'll see you next time.